Hello everybody and welcome back to RP-1. I'm really excited for today's episode because it marks our first steps on our journey to the moon, and I cannot wait to see it. RSS Reborn makes a very pretty Earth, but a lot of the beauty is yet to be seen out there in space, so I'm really excited to visit the moon up close and personal. So first thing we're going to do is visit the R&D department, and we're actually going to cancel this SRB technology for now. In favor of the lunar range communications, and we'll get more into that soon enough. But what that will do is give us the ability to upgrading our tracking station, and just like in the stock Kerbal, you're going to need to upgrade both that and mission control in order to get maneuver planning capabilities. So that's going to be part of what we're going to be doing today. As much as I'd like to continue the X-Plane and push forward through to the last couple contracts with it, the high altitude Kármán line contract and the supersonic, but we'll be picking up that in probably the next episode, depending on the outcome of this one. But for now, we are going to take a look at our programs. We have 4 options like we looked at the end of last episode. But after giving it some thought, I've decided that I'm going to pick the early lunar probes for the lunar impact and the lunar flyby. I think they'd be a fun way of seeing the moon up close and personal that won't be too difficult to achieve. We are going to do it fast, however. I don't believe in myself strongly enough to get there that quickly, so we're going to take the 240,000 per year over the span of 4 years. So we're going to take that. And then I was actually surprised to see that we can actually take another program here because they have they take up just 1 contract slot. So we're going to grab this early Earth observation satellites because this allows us to do a lot more science. This is more science focused, getting 2 different experiments out beyond low Earth orbit, getting an infrared radiometry satellite, reaching orbital speed and returning safely. And then a dedicated Earth imaging satellite. Very cool stuff. I think that'll yield us a lot of science that we can use later. The commercial applications would be good. It would give us a communications network that would be much stronger than what we have currently, but I'm not entirely sure the best approaches to handle all of those contracts, whereas the one that we took is a little more straightforward. Just, get that satellite up and going. But now we have... like I mentioned at the end of the last episode, thank you to a helpful commenter who pointed out that we didn't have practically any leaders or contractors selected. So we are going to go through our administration and choose the best solution. We will eventually settle on Satish Dhawan. I really like the science transmission gain that he gives, and the fact that his only shortcoming is that it's negative 8% funds from the program. It's not too bad. Moving down to the chief scientist, we're going to go look through all of our options. We have different priorities this time around. Last time we played, I really enjoyed having Jack Parsons as our chief scientist for his love of solid rocket boosters, but this time around we're shooting for the moon, and so we're going to want to consider different things. Ultimately, we're going to go with James Van Allen because he gives a boost to the science nodes of the research tree, and ultimately I've decided that with our pushing towards the moon, having access to more biomes, having a science-focused mindset about our program would be very beneficial for us, because science begets science, and then that science can make bigger and better things, cooler rockets, better programs. So with our leaders in place, let's switch over onto our contractors. These are good for adding little bonuses, tiny little gains. The people are good for really structuring how your administration handles their approach to each of the programs, but the contractors are kind of like these little bonuses, 15% flight research, 75% funds to air launch, things like that. And so they matter a little less and can be changed out depending on the projects. I do want to have one thing focused on airplanes in our contracts because we still have our X-Plane program going on. However, I do now want to change my focus to more rocketry-focused contractors. Ultimately, we're going to go with JPL, Bell Aircraft, and the Douglas Aircraft companies. JPL for their 10% bonus to science, avionics, and electronics research speed. And the Bell Aircraft for their 75% reduction to air launches and 300% speed for mounting and unmounting to the aircraft carriers, which will be good for to complete our final contracts in our X-Plane program. And the final one is Douglas Aircraft Company for their 300% to integration speed of isogrid tanks. So that will get us set up for the coming future of our projects. So now we're going to warp our way to completion for the Lunar Range Communications science to be completed. So now we can work on upgrading our tracking station. We do have the money. It's not too expensive, thankfully. So we can go ahead and plop that in there. And we don't have any science to do. We don't have any rockets in the mix, so might as well time warp our way there. Unfortunately, it was at this moment that I realized that the mission control also needed to be upgraded, and I could have actually clicked them both at the same time to save myself, well, a little bit of time. But nonetheless, we're just going to push forward. I need to have both of them upgraded in order to utilize the patch conics even in the simulation mode, so that's why I kind of pushed forward to get them done before I worked on building the rocket. Now, typically I don't share the simulation. I kind of try to focus on what actually happens, the real launches. But this was just like, I don't know if I could ever achieve this again. This was the rocket that we were building that you'll see pretty soon. This is the reason why we sent it out onto the launch pad in the first place, was because of this launch. And I don't know that I'll ever be able to achieve it again. It was almost by chance. And the problem that we had with this rocket is it actually ends up overshooting the moon. No matter what we did, it kept overshooting the moon. But we ended up developing this short stop system that allowed it to cancel out its forward velocity at a certain point. However, the RCS would lock into place and it would keep burning and keep pushing the craft forward. And so I'm just waiting for the RCS, the nitrous oxide, to stop burning, to burn out. We do have a contract to impact the moon. So, you know, if we end up hitting it with all our force, that's not a bad idea. But we also have a flyby contract. As long as we can get within 5,000 kilometers, we can achieve that. And then right when our nitrous oxide runs out at 200 kilometers above the surface and just breeze right on by, oh, that was beautiful. I don't know how I could ever achieve that again. That's not what happens in this mission today, but that was something really cool to see, that the RCS just ran out of fuel right at that exact moment. But nonetheless, we are going to push this mission forward. It is now known as the Gold Eagle size satellite, no longer the Gold Bird, but a little bit of specification. It's always nice. So we might as well turn it gold to fill its namesake. So it is basically the same thing as the same lifting stage as we had seen in the previous episodes, just with 2 extra boosters on there, because when in doubt, more boosters. And so we're deciding to spend, not really, because, you know, painting doesn't actually add any of the funds to this, but I do like the idea that our administration decided to splurge on the paint budget and paint this thing in solid gold. Paying no mind, of course, to the added mass that would give it. But here we are with a completely gold rocket ready to go. And I was very impressed. As we see here, it has, well, I kind of just covered it, sorry about that. But we'll see in a moment that it has a delta V of 12,745 meters per second. And from what I had kind of gathered is you need somewhere to the tune of 12,800 for a lunar flyby. I think a little bit more for lunar impact. So I really was just hoping to get a good flyby from this. I feel like we'd need to do a little more work to actually touch the surface. But with our launch complex built, we decided to rush the work being done on it because we have the money to afford. But however, during our process, during our excitement, Heidi Weber has decided to hang up her jacket and no longer be a pilot with us. She has officially retired, and we will have to say goodbye to her. I was not prepared for that. I had more missions that I wanted her to do. I had more flights, more glory, but that is the case when you stop focusing on one program. You put your pilots to the side, you let your aircraft gather dust in their hangars, and you focus on rockets. So unfortunately, we have had to say goodbye to her, but we still have Stuart Kelly. We have him for another 4 more years, and so we will be able to put him to use soon enough. Like I mentioned, we're going to be continuing on the X-Plane program and hopefully completing those last few contracts soon. But now, with a launch complex made, all we have left to do is to hire as many, or not hire, but move our engineers over to fit them on there, make sure that we fill them up, max amount of people, and then we're just going to put the rest of them into our aircraft hangar. And then that allows us to build our rocket within the year. And on the launch pad, once again, a monumentous launch to be sure. Not only are we going to take our best stab at the mud, but this is going to be the first episode where I actually fully rely on MechJeb. As we zoom out, we see that because we have chosen James Van Allen as our chief scientist, we now get to see the Van Allen belt. So that'll be interesting. I'm going to actually have to read up a little bit on that. I only know peripherally about it, and I do know that it will affect us once we start sending humans, as it does in reality. So that's going to be interesting, but nonetheless, we now have access to maneuver nodes and patch conics to get to the moon, and we can launch into the appropriate transfer window. We have our ascent guidance set to launch into the plane. Everything is all good. It's going to be autopilot from here. In the last episode, I did do a combination of MechJeb for the launch, and then the last bit I took over manually because I just didn't quite understand its coasting stage. But this time I think I figured out, not really the coasting stage, I still haven't figured that out, but I have figured out how to launch at the right moment to hit your target the way that you want to. So this is going to be a fully automated flight, and so we get to kind of sit back, relax, and watch as we make our first attempt on this channel to touch the moon. And I have learned that you can actually physics warp a little bit, save some time, save some effort. So I will be utilizing that a little bit. It's a bit shorter of an episode today, but I think what we ended up accomplishing was pretty fun, so I didn't want to pack in too many things and make it extra long unnecessarily. We're going to have different goals in the next episode because of what we got in this one. And back at the main rocket, we see that we've already transmitted some new science, bringing us to 3.2. It's a good number to keep in mind because we'll compare that to what we get by the end of it, because we have quite a few science experiments packed into here. We've got the cosmic ray science, which still has quite a bit left to do. But we also have our temperature scan, our pressure scan, and our telemetry analysis, which so far we've gained all the science we can possibly gain on it out here in low Earth orbit. But today we have higher aspirations, so that means we're going to get more science from it. I'm going to skip ahead most of this burn because it is quite long, but the bulk of what you need to know is that in all of my tests, no matter what I did, I ended up burning past my target, and I had to find some way of slowing down, stopping, or reversing my trajectory before I got there, and then rely on the RCS to push myself the rest of the way, as we saw in the test flight earlier. That long yellow trajectory, that is my potential trajectory with this rocket. It's so overpowered that it wants to leave the actual sphere of influence of the Earth. We actually have to tone it down a little bit, and I think in the next episode we're gonna utilize some of the science we unlock to either upgrade our rocket to be a little more advanced, so to speak. I don't know exactly how to do what I want to do, but I do know that we need to bring ourselves back so we can not go as far, because as we see here, we're pushing way past the moon and missing it entirely. I was so sure that during our test flight that we had it nailed down, we had the perfect settings, that we would just cruise on by the moon on our first try. I was so excited, and I spent many hours trying to, lessen the fuel amount, trying to hit the target right on point, trying to cancel out and give myself ullage problems to stop our motor, but alas, none of it would work. And so I decided to just cut my losses, take the win of reaching high Earth orbit, taking the win of getting a ton of new science, and just doing something that I've never done before. And not only have we not done this in this playthrough, in this series, I've just never gotten this far in RP-1, and so I was having a blast. It was frustrating when you're trying to hit an exact target and you just keep coming up short, especially when the simulation says that you should do it. But it was very cool to still break those boundaries. So now, with no more fuel in the rocket, no more nitrous oxide in the tanks, nothing else left to do but watch our windows and see our science roll up and our countdown go down. We do have the ability of collecting cosmic arrays beyond low Earth orbit, and that is a contract that potentially this craft could accomplish as long as it can collect science for the next 44 days. The game freezes up a little bit, and I'm starting to worry, thinking that I had broken a barrier too great for my computer, and I may have to just reload this save. But once we come back, I realized that we were just indeed crossing through either the Van Allen belt or maybe into high space. We flashed on just momentarily our science as it very quickly completed the 4 points of data that it needed. All in all, not too beneficial of a science mission. We really got not a lot from our pressure scan and our temperature scan. They only have a limited amount of science per. However, it does show us that we can now reach higher altitudes with our probes, and we can get more advanced science experiments up here pretty soon. The micrometeorite detection, a lot of good options for science, and especially things maybe we haven't even unlocked yet. We just saw that we have 22.7 points of science, so I'm really excited to see what we can unlock when we get back home. I get the warning that we are almost out of electrical charge, and that's when I see that we don't have any solar panels on there, which is quite unfortunate. So we're gonna time warp our way until we run out of electricity entirely, and as we see now, we are no longer capable of completing the cosmic ray satellite contract, so we're gonna have to do that in another launch. So no contract completions for today's launch, but we did get a lot of science, and it did show that our technology is there. We can at least achieve a high enough altitude to surpass the moon. Now we actually have to find a way of controlling ourselves to actually hit it, and then fly by it, and then eventually orbit it and land on it. So hopefully we can do that soon, but with the added science, I have no doubt that we are headed in the right direction. But in the next episode, we will continue that on. We may also, like I mentioned before, revisit the X-Planes and see where to go from there. Either way, I'm excited to sit back down and play again, and I hope you're excited to watch. But anyways, that is where I'm going to leave today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're looking forward for more RP-1. If you did, think about subscribing. Drop me a like, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.